Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And a jolly good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always, even though it's raining out there, from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo and broadcasting on TV1, a proud member of the Capital Maharaja Group. And on this very wet morning here in Colombo, we've got a guest here who'll help us understand the importance of public speaking and leadership. And to that end, it's a great delight to welcome this morning onto our set on Newsline Mr. Mike Storkey, the International President of Toastmasters International. Morning to you, Mike Storkey.
Good morning.
And welcome to our set, welcome to Sri Lanka, and it's a great pleasure to have you here, actually. So straight away, what is Toastmasters International?
Well, it's a worldwide group that is dedicated to personal development, to develop people's speaking ability and their leadership ability.
Right, and how important is the art of being able to speak in public? And how important is that?
Well, I think it's very important. Everybody has something to say. Most lack the confidence or knowledge of how to say it.
Right.
So we're trying to give people a voice so that they can express themselves both in their careers, in their community and in their family. Mm-hmm. And it's all about self-confidence. Once people get confidence, they've got more faith in that they can say something that is meaningful and people understand. And
Toastmasters work using a model of having clubs.
That's correct.
Now, I'm told that in Sri Lanka, there's been a huge explosion in the number of clubs in the last 12 years or so. Between 2004 and 2017, I believe you have around 300 clubs now in Sri Lanka. And between Sri Lanka and South India, which is the other part of your district,
yes,
you have 600 clubs. And in Sri Lanka, you have about 116 in Sri Lanka alone, and a membership of about 3,500 people.
That's correct.
Total. And why clubs?
Well, we believe that with any skill you need to constantly practice it. Champion swimmers, when they become world champions, still train every day.
Right.
We believe that our members can continually practice in a safe environment to hone their skills, develop them skills, so that when they take them outside the club for the benefit of their community or their career, they're in a position to really practice what they preach.
I see. And what's the format? Does somebody sit with you, and is it like a tuition lesson, a class?
No, it is not. It is adults enjoying the company of others.
Right.
We do have a set program.
Right.
However, it has to be fun. People learn best in atmospheres of enjoyment. Mm-hmm. So it is not a school.
Right.
It is a process whereby people learn by doing.
Right.
So instead of sitting there with a blackboard and school books, it's very much a participatory learning phase. And people give prepared speeches. They do impromptu speaking, which is where they're asked to talk for 2 minutes on a subject they knew nothing about beforehand.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of activities about communication. Listening is one of the biggest lacking elements in communication at the moment.
Right.
So we do things to teach people to listen as well.
I see. And the membership is drawn from the full spectrum of society, is it?
Yes. 18 and over, it is an adult learning group. Mm-hmm. We do have other facilities for people under 18, but mainly to be a Toastmaster you need to be 18. After that, it's open to everyone.
I see. And is it, in terms of money, is it free? Is it to pay?
It is, I believe, the cheapest form of self-advancement there is. It costs you $90 a year.
Right, okay. Okay. So, but if it's 100, it's about 15,000 rupees. Right, so Not that much.
Not when you compare it to other courses that are available.
Right. And how big is your Australian Parliament?
What do we have? Just off the top of my head, I think we have something like 300 members, 250.
Right. And how many of them can claim some link to Toastmasters International?
I think a number of them, a small number, I must admit, have been members of Toastmasters prior to becoming members of Parliament. Unfortunately, not enough of them have been to Toastmasters.
What's your ideal scenario? What would you like to see?
I'd love to see every politician who runs for office would have to have been through a Toastmasters program.
Right, that's the ideal scenario.
That would be wonderful.
I was speaking to a colleague of yours earlier before we started, and apparently we don't have any link with it, even if it's one, to Toastmasters in our Parliament. But perhaps your awareness program might be able to capture the imagination of some of our members of Parliament, and hopefully they may take up membership.
Well, I think the thing would be is we'd like to get them before they even join a political party, so they learn to communicate well, they learn to listen to their voters, and that would make them better.
But, Mr. Starkey, we seem to have a particular problem over here. The years apparently only work during an election campaign. Thereafter, after election, they suffer from some sort of deafness. What does Toastmasters have to say about that?
Well, we have 4 core values that we expect from our members.
Right.
The first is integrity.
Yeah.
The second one is respect.
Right.
The third one is service.
Right.
And the fourth one is excellence. And I think if all our politicians worldwide observed those 4 core values, we, the voting public, would have far better service from our politicians.
And the media, vast tranches of the media will have to shut shop. Because we won't have to do then. But this is an international organisation.
Yes.
And what are the more remote places that we can think of?
Well, in my own district, we have Papua New Guinea, which is an emerging country that has 839 separate languages, not dialects, languages.
Wow.
So obviously that's a challenge.
Yeah.
But we're going into South America, we're at the moment in Brazil, we're looking to expand into Argentina and Chile. So there are a lot of places we haven't touched yet, but the major expansion is in India, Southeast Asia and Europe at the moment.
It appears that South India has tremendous more potential. Just judging by the numbers, I was given earlier, about 116 in Sri Lanka, about 110 in Tamil Nadu. But Tamil Nadu is several times bigger than this little speck known as Sri Lanka. So how do you go about promoting the awareness and so on?
Well, I think the main thing that we do is it's through personal recommendation. We encourage our members to bring their friends to see for themselves so that they might join, and then clubs tend to form new clubs as it spreads out. So it's a bit like a grid system. It spreads out. It's always important to have someone on the ground to help a new club, because if everybody's new to the system, it's very difficult to learn. So we get experienced members to go and assist growing clubs.
And should you get sort of visiting speakers?
We do. We encourage all our members to go and visit other clubs, because they learn from doing that. No 2 clubs are the same.
Right.
So you can pick up a good idea here and a good idea there, take it back to your club. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But until you try something, you don't know.
How difficult is it to overcome this? So a lot of people, most people I think, are almost terrified of speaking in public. And how do you all encourage them to to rid themselves of that shackle of being shy?
Well, I think the big thing is a lack of confidence. So the first thing we try to do is they're amongst friends. There is no stigma in making a mistake in a club environment. We're all there to be supportive. And once they start to build their confidence and we give them the basic skills of how to communicate and how to get their message across, it then becomes by practice. The more you do it, the more you get used to standing in front of people and talking, the more confident you feel and the better speaker you become.
So I suppose you can impart a couple of tips here. If we were addressing a group of 1,000 people, what do you advise your speaker to do? Make eye contact with one or two people?
You should always pick some people in the audience that you can make eye contact, so you scan the room.
Right.
People in the audience think you're looking at them, but you might be looking at the gentleman 2 rows back and to the left.
Right.
But it's very important to maintain eye contact. It's important to know the audience you're speaking to, because you need to talk on their level about something that is of interest to them.
Right.
So that's another tip. But the biggest thing is to look at your audience as friends. If you look at them as the enemy,
you've had it.
You've had it.
Right.
You need to look at them as their friends. So smile, relax, and make them relax.
I see. Now, so what you mean is that if you're addressing a group of, let's say, members of the fishing community, it's no good turning up there and talking to them about landing on the moon.
Well, it might be, but I mean, for instance, one thing you wouldn't want to talk to them about is imposing fishing bans, restricting their business and their way of life. We'll leave that to the politicians.
Yes.
But if you are addressing an audience, you need to talk to them about something they're interested in, something that is either going to affect them, benefit them, or bring new challenges to them. But it needs to be something of interest.
And where does leadership fit in to this?
Well, many people think the two are separated, communication and leadership. But really, when you think about it, there are very few effective leaders that are not also effective communicators.
Right.
The two go hand in hand. The first thing before you develop leadership skills is you need to develop your confidence and be able to express yourself to get your message across.
And you need to know your facts first.
Oh, that helps greatly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But they do say don't let facts get in the way of a good story, but basically you do need to. So really what we're saying is develop your self-confidence first, be able to express your opinions. Leadership will then follow, because people like to follow people who they understand, who they hear, and who can communicate with them.
So the ideal scenario is to lead. The next one would be to follow. And if you can't do either, it's best to stand aside and get out of the way.
Very few people don't have leadership skills. I mean, people tend to think of leaders as political leaders, leaders in business, but we have leaders throughout society, unsung leaders. I mean, a mother and a father are a leader in their family unit. A teacher is a leader with students, so there are lots of opportunities to lead. It's not always out the front with a drum and a flag saying, "Follow me."
Right, okay. How essential is it for leaders to be able to delegate and to encourage their colleagues and further down the chain, if you like, to be themselves and to not be intimidated by position?
Well, I think you've hit on a very important topic. Delegation is vital to any leader. If you don't delegate, you can only get so many things done. There are a team of people, your team, who you need to delegate to achieve more, to develop their leadership skills, and most importantly, maybe the way you would do it isn't the best way. And quite often, people you delegate to open up a whole new experience for you where you find, I never thought of doing it that way. So it's a learning process both for the delegatee and the delegator.
And is it essential for the person who is delegating to to openly acknowledge, and like you say, oh my gosh, I didn't think of doing it that way. Is it very helpful for that person to admit that? And will that inspire the other person?
Exactly. I think recognition is something that we lack terribly in society. We often hear people say the only time the boss speaks to me is when I've done something wrong. Well, I would rather it was the other way, that you more often hear the boss saying, well done, you did that well, oh, that's a novel idea. Little bits of encouragement like that will bring out the best in people. And so I think it's very good to acknowledge success in others. You should never be afraid that the person you are mentoring, if you like, may end up being far more successful at the job than you were. But you've played a part in their development.
And Mr. Saki, what about people talk about stage fright? What is stage fright, and how do you overcome it?
Well,
Can you overcome it?
Well, definitely. Everybody gets apprehensive before they go to address a group of people. Sir Laurence Olivier, the famous English actor, once said, if I'm not nervous before a performance, I know I'm going to give a bad performance.
Right.
The secret is the butterflies in the tummy. You need to be able to control them and get them to fly in formation. And if you can do that, natural nervous energy is good. It enhances your performance. So you don't want to be totally dull and no nerves at all, because you'll give a very flat performance. So a little bit of nervousness is good. It's just controlling it. And as I said before, it's knowing how to put your speech together. It's knowing how to present and how to control your nerves that is so important.
And have you met with Sri Lanka's Dhananjaya Hettiarachchi?
Yes, I have, and I was actually in the audience when he gave his winning speech, which was magnificent.
And what do you remember what it was?
Well, I remember that everyone remembers his catchphrase. It is, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
And it was a brilliant speech.
And he kept the audience absolutely raptured, is it?
Well, I felt that once he'd spoken, no one else was going to win. He was just that good.
And some viewers are trying to send their questions in by calling me. You need to send it by SMS because I can't possibly answer the phone. But do send your messages in. It's great to have you joining us. What did you detect in Mr. Hettiarachchi? What do you think made him?
Well, I think his message connected with the audience.
Right.
All of us at times feel insecure and need encouragement, and his message was all about the people that actually saw in him things that he didn't see in himself, and that was the encouragement that made him continue.
I see. If you remember, we had the former Sri Lanka cricket captain and one of our more outstanding sort of products, Kumar Sangakkara, and he gave the Colin Cowdrey lecture at Lord's, and you know he was already a star as in cricket, but after that speech he seemed to have connected with a whole lot more people, and he had the audience completely captivated. But his message, his speech, I suppose a proper term would be that it went viral. You know, if you're familiar with this new thing,
yes.
Viral. I thought it was a medical term, but apparently, you know, it's gone viral. So, how important is how does one capitalize on such events and to inspire others to speak well and to know what they're talking about?
Well, I think the big thing that many people do not realise is that everybody is a mentor. people look at people doing things, and if they like what they see, they want to imitate that person or acquire those skills. So everybody should be trying to do their best all the time, because you never know who's watching you, taking note and thinking, oh, I'd like to be like them, I'd like to follow in their footsteps, I'd like to do what they're doing. So it's a huge responsibility. All of us have a responsibility to our fellow citizens to do the best we can and to inspire them to be the best they can be. And it's a big responsibility, but most of us don't take it seriously. We kind of live our own little lives and don't realise others are watching us all the time.
I suppose the PR industry and speaking and leadership is rather well interlinked to each other. If you cast your mind back to some years ago when the problem of terrorism was eradicated comprehensively so in this country, but thereafter the government of Sri Lanka, the people of Sri Lanka, found a whole lot of negativity out there in the rest of the world, even though they had in effect fought terrorism very successfully. And a lot of people say, looking back, that it was one or two statements that helped to help this country's image go down this slippery slope. One was, I think what they meant to say was, we had a policy of least collateral damage, but it turned out that they said there was no collateral damage, it was zero. And of course that was communicated in the wrong way. But how important is that? PR and
well, it is very important, and the thing is, the best communications you can get is person to person,
right?
Because you can see their facial expressions, you can understand and sense their tone. It's very difficult with this age of digital communication.
Yeah.
People use words, but you might ascribe a different meaning to a word than I ascribe. And so if I misunderstand what you meant by saying that, such as little or no collateral damage, you might think what you're saying is correct, but the person you're speaking to would interpret that totally different. We don't ask enough questions. When we're communicating with people, we assume we know what they mean. Really what we should say, if we have any doubt at all, is, am I right to understand you mean? Ask the person if you've got the right interpretation before you find and frame your response. And we don't do that enough.
Is that because there's not much confidence on the other side, the person asking or wanting to ask the question, that the question is asked of, may not have the time to listen to these clarification-seeking questions?
Most of us are forming the answer to what we're being asked before the gentleman or lady asking the question have finished.
Right.
So we don't hear the last 6 or 7 words they're going to say.
Right.
We're already forming our response. Very often the key to what they're saying is in the last 5 or 6 words.
Right.
So we should wait until the person asking us the question has finished before we start to formulate the answer, to make sure that we have understood. And if we haven't understood, as I said, we should say, just correct me if I'm wrong, am I right in assuming you're saying so-and-so?
Right.
If we did that, there would be so much less misunderstanding.
Indeed.
And, dare I say, maybe we'd be a more peaceful, harmonious society.
But then there's always hope, isn't there?
Oh, yes. You can't say, oh, well, it's all too hard and we'll go away.
Yes.
We have to work at it.
You've got to keep plugging at it.
Yeah.
Well, what's your program here in Sri Lanka?
Well, so far I've visited and I was very impressed with your development zones where you have, and we went to, I can't remember the name of the place, but outside of Colombo, where there are 500 acres with 200 odd factories, where they're encouraging the export trade and businesses to set up. I'm very impressed with that. Met quite a few people with a view to forming clubs in their corporations. I've been to a couple of club meetings and a charter meeting last night at a brand new club, and of course then we have our convention, a conference this weekend, Ovation 217.
And people from abroad coming in?
I believe there are Toastmasters from India, Japan, a couple from Australia, myself included, and then of course from all over Sri Lanka. I believe there's 760 or 770, and they've had to turn away about 150 because they can't fit any more in the hall.
You observe, obviously, in the nature of the business you're in, good speakers and so on. What do you think, amongst all the world leaders that we currently have, and who you've sort of heard speak, is there one particular world leader who stands out?
I thought President Obama was an excellent speaker and orator. He really could connect with the audience. He was very clear to listen to. There are numerous people around the world that grab your attention. You think, yes, I want to listen to them. There are others who, I should say, I almost turn the TV off when they come on, because they're not coherent in their message, and they're I think the difference is the good orators speak from the heart. A lot of political oration is about I am, look at me, and that turns me off.
In Sri Lanka, it's when the politicians speak, it's usually I want for me.
And that's not why they should be there, is it?
No, that's right. But then, it's a constant battle to get them to change and to get people to have a commitment. But at what level do you encourage these? Do you encourage students?
Yes, we have We have a youth leadership program which goes into high schools and schools to develop speaking skills within students. It's a 6 to 8 week course where they learn how to prepare speeches, how to get up and speak to an audience. And then we have gavel clubs, which are under 18-year-old clubs, for the students to practice. And they meet just the same as Toastmasters clubs do. And then when they become 18, they can join a full-fledged Toastmasters club.
When delivering a speech let's call it a speech, or an address, when you're delivering such a thing, is it, what's the golden rule? Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it sweet? What is it?
Some of us say that in speaking you should stand up, speak up, shut up, and sit down.
Right.
So yes, you need to. Speeches tend to go on for so long. You can put too much information into a speech. Some go on and on and on. No more than 3 points, major points. Keep it short, keep it succinct, and don't waffle.
Don't waffle.
Don't waffle. You need a good opening and a good close, because that's what people remember. They remember the first impression you make and the last thing you say. In the middle, they may remember, but it's the beginning and ending of a speech that is so important.
And of course, if you make a mistake, everybody else will remember it for forever and a day.
But then again, you see, people worry so much about making a mistake in the speech.
Yeah.
Most of the people in your audience don't know what your speech was going to say anyway, so they wouldn't know if you made a mistake. But if you then say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake," then you're telling them you've made a mistake.
Mike Starkey, the international president of Toastmasters International, thank you very much for being on Newsline. It was a great pleasure having you. Enjoy the rest of your stay in Sri Lanka, and do come back and enjoy what our country has to offer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that's it from Newsline on Thursday, the 25th of May, 2017. Take care and God bless.